The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, Lord. At that time, Jesus walked by the Sea of Galilee, went up on the mountain and sat down there. Great crowds came to him, having with them the lame, the blind, the deformed, the mute, and many others. They placed them at his feet, and he cured them. The crowds were amazed when they saw the mute speaking, the deformed made whole, the lame walking, and the blind able to see, and they glorified the God of Israel. Jesus summoned his disciples and said, "My heart is moved with pity for the crowd, for they have been with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. I do not want to send them away hungry, for fear that they may collapse on the way." The disciples said to him, "Where could we ever get enough bread in this deserted place to satisfy such a crowd?" Jesus said to them, "How many loaves do you have?" 7, they replied, "and a few fish." He ordered the crowd to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves and the fish, gave thanks, broke the loaves, and gave them to the disciples, who in turn gave them to the crowds. They all ate and were satisfied. They picked up the fragments left over, 7 baskets full. The Gospel of the Lord. So I think you'd all agree with me that God gives us everything, he provides everything that we need. He may not provide for all our wants, but he certainly provides for all of our needs. The needs that we have for life are essential for our survival: air, water, food, clothing, shelter, and companionship. These are the basic needs of life, those which we cannot live without. Things like cable TV, cell phones, automobiles, these things are very nice to have, but when it comes down to it, we can learn to live without them. Of course, those of us who've just experienced the aftermath of the recent hurricane can attest that we lost power for days and possibly a week or more, and that we can survive without the comforts of electricity, air conditioning, hot water, and many of the other luxuries that we take for granted. But the more that we get used to these things, the more dependent we are on them, and the more that we feel we can't live without them. In this morning's gospel, Jesus felt pity for the people who had been following him and hearing him preach and watching him heal the sick for 3 days. He saw that they believed in him and wanted to be near him despite being without the necessities of food for those 3 days. So he took what little resources he could gather from the disciples, 7 loaves and a few fish. He prayed over them and had the disciples distribute the food to the crowd. He is like this with us as well. He gives us the graces that we need to survive spiritually as we pray to him. The words of encouragement and reaffirmation that we find when we read the scriptures, and the nourishment of his body and blood that we receive through the blessed sacrament of the Eucharist. We may never possess that winning lottery ticket or that mansion that we've dreamed about, but we will have all of our needs met by Jesus through his eternal love and his compassion that he holds for us.